Welcome to the Super Subs with
Andrew.
and Harry, where we talk about anything and everything related to football. Welcome back, listeners. Today, we're actually going to be talking about positions. So this is our new series that we're heading right into. We're in the middle of January and we're heading into February. It's the middle of winter. What better to start a new series called Positions Explained? So if you're new to the game of football, if you're new to the rules and new to what to watch and who does what in the game of football or soccer, there's different positions, and we're actually going to take the time to explain all of the different positions, starting with the back line, the goalkeeper. That's what we're actually doing today. So what is a goalkeeper? And we're going to move our way to the defense, the midfield, and then the attack in subsequent episodes. And then we're actually going to take episodes after that to dive into each specific position in each of those different phases on the field. So what's a center back in the defense? What's a right wing player? What is a defensive midfielder? So we're going to go through all of those, but today we are going to focus on what is a goalkeeper. So you're going to hear all about the goalkeeper, the history of the goalkeeper, why a goalkeeper is important in the team, and some famous goalkeepers and what goalkeepers look like today. But before we get into all of that, Andrew, what is glistening your lips? What are you drinking today?
We have just got a basic lemon water. We've got, the height of sixth season here, so just hydrating, getting some vitamin C. Nothing too special, honestly. How about yourself?
I've got a black tea, so a little soothing end to the night, I would say. We're recording this. It is the evening time here in California. It's a nice black Earl Grey. Shout out to the Brits for Earl Grey. Great invention there.
Shout out to the Brits.
Shout out to the Brits. Cheers. Cheers. Pinkies up as well. Delightful. So great. I think we both are drinking appropriate drinks for the wintertime season. If you were drinking a slushie at 9 p.m. at night here in California we're actually going through a storm right now. So for those of you that don't live in California and don't live in the U.S., you may not have heard reports. So San Francisco, the Bay Area here in California, we're in Northern California on the west coast of the United States, is usually a fairly temperate area. It doesn't get too hot, doesn't get too cold, but lately we've been having these Armageddon-esque storms where there's hail, there's wind, there's water, there's everything you can imagine. So we're staying nice and bundled at home. Andrew, how's the weather been treating you? I know weather is kind of everyone talks about it here and there, but it's truly been a topic lately, right?
It has, yeah. We've got this atmospheric river going on. Yeah, it's been throwing out some meteorology terms.
Whoa.
I used to work in the outdoors in a past life, and I've been talking to some buddies out there, and our land around here, the coast, everything's just getting really pretty badly beat up. So definitely thoughts are with all those that are going through that. That's definitely tough. Yeah,
absolutely, and definitely stay dry, stay safe, and for those of you listening in a safe place that can listen safely with friends, spread the word of the pod to your friends, but also tell them to stay safe and stay dry. But without further ado, let's head right into it. Andrew, tell us, why is a goalkeeper important in a team? Tell us more about the basics of a goalkeeper. Obviously, in the name, it's kind of implied. We understand what a goalkeeper does, but why is a goalkeeper important in a football team of 11 people?
Yeah, in a football team of 11, the goalkeeper is the last line of defense. They are allowed to use their hands, pretty much any part of their body, to keep the ball out. Now, that being said, there are some rules regarding that. There is an 18-yard box that you'll see marked down on the field, so they can only use their hands within that box. But when they're in that box, they can pick up the ball, they can deflect it, they can really do whatever. Outside of that 18-yard box, they're allowed to use any other part of their body, just like any other player. But yeah, they're the last line of defense. They're integral for teams' defenses, making sure that the opposing team doesn't score. I mean, it's about as straightforward as that. You see goalkeepers and goalies in other sports, Yeah, they are the Iron Curtains. They're the last man or woman to try to keep that ball out of the back of the net.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
about as simple as that.
Andrew, tell me, so if a goalkeeper, and this is kind of going back to the basics of football, our episode we did a few episodes ago, if a goalkeeper's feet are out of bounds or out of play, so on the other side of the touch line, they've crossed the line, but somehow they're clasping the ball, but the ball is still in play. You see where I'm going with this.
I do.
Is the ball then, as an extension of their body, is that out of play, or is the ball still in play if technically they still have it over the line?
You're playing the ball, so the ball has to be. It's where the ball is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So even if the ball, let's say the goalkeeper's feet are fully in the goal and they stop the ball, but the ball hasn't fully crossed the goal line. That's not a goal. That's not a goal, right?
Not a goal.
Not a goal. Okay.
Whole ball over the whole line.
Yeah. The whole ball over the whole line. I love that line. Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll see a lot of different techniques with goalies, and we'll get into a little bit of that later. But as far as the evolution, but yeah, basic rules: goalie can use their hands within the 18-yard box. If they have the ball in their hands, they've got about 6 seconds or so to release the ball, put the ball down, throw it, kick it, what have you. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. Harry, let's take a deep dive into the history of the goalkeeper and the position and what that has looked like over time.
Yeah, so as some of you might know, and some of you may not know if you're a newer fan to the sport of football or soccer, this was a sport that has a lot of history, so created in the early 1800s, and some may have even played it before that, but it's a ball on a field, bunch of people, guys or girls, kicking around. Very simple game, but more rules started to be applied to this sport as it got more and more official over the years. So before the 1870s, actually, there were really no such thing as an official goalkeeper. That was not an official position. It was just 11 versus 11, or a team versus another team. And whoever was just the closest defender to the goal would try to stop the ball from going in the goal, right? So it wasn't really an official position until really 1871 is the first rule, is the goalkeeper, the official goalkeeper being a position then by 1871, may handle the ball, and handle pretty much implies handling with your hands. Otherwise, if you're touching the ball, it can only be with your legs, feet, etc. But in 1871, the goalkeeper can handle the ball only for the protection of his goal. So it's kind of like some parts of the Constitution up for interpretation. But
living document.
I know, living document, but for the protection of his goal. So that's in quotes. So it's up to the refs to enforce what that looks like. In 1873, it was stated that the keeper may not carry the ball. That means carry the ball, I'm assuming, outside of a certain area. So take the ball, and almost like American football, that pigskin that you're carrying down the field, you can't, in football or soccer, European football or soccer, you can't carry the ball down the field. So that was enforced as well. In 1883, the keeper can't carry the ball for more than 2 steps, actually. So that was it's almost a very hard line. It's almost like a traveling in basketball. You can't take more than a step or two, or else a foul will be called. 1887, it was stated that the keeper may not handle the ball or touch the ball with their hands in the opposition's half. So before this, you could go anywhere in your half or anywhere on the field, I guess, with touching the ball as the goalkeeper. Imagine a modern goalkeeper, Andrew, going into their opposition's half and just picking up the ball. Isn't that just insane to think about today? Just like going up playing as a striker, a forward, and then somehow diving onto the ball and just holding the ball and passing it to someone else and then them scoring. That's just
feels very rugby.
Feels very
rugby-esque.
Feels very rugby-esque. So let's skip forward a little bit. Let's go to the 1930s. So in the 1930s, it's stated that the keeper may take up to now 4 steps rather than 2 while carrying the ball, a little bit more. And then 1992, some more rules. The keeper may not handle the ball after it has been deliberately kicked to them by a teammate. So this is something usually called a back pass, or usually called just really a teammate passing the ball to you. So if it's been deliberately kicked to you, you can't handle the ball or pick it up. What this rule is preventing against actually is pretty much you keeping the ball indefinitely. So as a goalkeeper, if I take the ball, I roll the ball to my teammate, usually a defender if they're that far back, and they dribble it and then they pass it back to me. It's just so easy as a goalkeeper if I just pick it up again and then that 6-second timer resets. And I just roll it back again. They kick it to me again. I pick it up again. And you can technically just never let the opponent have the ball again. So it was deemed pretty unfair. If you receive a pass from your defensive line, you have to act as any other player does and just receive it with your feet. You can't pick it up and hold it, because if you hold it, then it's in your possession and the opposition can't really kick it out of your hands. It's against the rules to kick it out of a goalkeeper's hands while they have possession of it. So that rule was made. And then in 1997, the famous rule, the keeper may not handle the ball for more than 6 seconds. So those are kind of the rules. And actually, sorry, I skipped a very important rule. This is probably one of the most important rules. In 1912, remember this year, folks, and if you're listening to the podcast, in 1912, it was deemed that the keeper may handle the ball only in the penalty area. So that is what we know quintessentially as the modern goalkeeper. You can only touch the ball or handle the ball within the 18-yard box or the penalty area. And penalty area is also if you get fouled in that area, if you're an attacking player, then you can take a penalty kick. That's why it's called the penalty area. So I'll say one more thing and we'll go right into famous goalkeepers. So really the concept of gloves actually in goalkeeping was pretty foreign up until, I believe, the early to mid 1900s. So imagine this leather ball that weighed a ton. Balls these days are very light, pumped with air, have many panels, and we'll actually break down the history of the soccer or football in another episode and talk about the evolution of that. And I think that'd be interesting to break down. But imagine goalkeepers just bare hand, in baseball, you have gloves to catch the ball. In football, you have goalkeeping gloves to make sure you don't get blisters on your hands. But back then, they had nothing. They didn't even have the concept of gloves. So they just stopped it with their bare hands. And I can't imagine how calloused your hands get after some plays.
Lots of stinging sensations.
Maybe they don't feel anything after a while.
Maybe.
I feel like that's completely right. Possible. So let's pivot, Andrew. Let's talk a little bit about famous goalkeepers. A lot of these names, if you're a newer fan, may not be as familiar to you, but these players have affected and changed the game and made their lasting imprint on the game in one way or another. Andrew, let's go through some of these players. Talk about some of the top goalkeepers, famous goalkeepers in football history.
Yeah, so I got to start it out with the Germans. Two in particular, both affiliated with Bayern Munich, which is a German team in the German top league, the Bundesliga. Yep. So we've got Manuel Neuer and Oliver Kahn.
Wow.
So Oliver Kahn played a while ago.
Yep.
Now he's actually an executive with the club FC Bayern Munich.
Yep.
And was a fantastic goalie, played in a number of World Cups for them. He had this big blonde hair and was just known for his aggression on the field and his tenacity and just his sheer, might. Fast forward to today, we've got Manuel Neuer, who's carrying the torch as the next German goalkeeping icon. Yeah. And he's really well known for being very much involved in the back part of the field. So not just in the penalty area, but coming out, making tackles, going beyond the 18-yard box and taking back passes and passing it and laying it off. Unfortunately, over the World Cup break, I believe he got injured in a skiing accident. So he's not playing at the moment. Yeah. So we wish him well and to heal up soon, or not. I don't know. Not to be mean, but we need some more parity in the German Bundesliga.
Absolutely,
Bayern wins every year. But yeah, so those are two really big names. Another big name that comes to mind is Peter Schmeichel. His son Kasper Schmeichel played for a long time for Leicester City in the English Premier League. He now has moved on to France to play in Ligue 1, I believe, from Monaco. But Peter Schmeichel, his father, definitely an iconic Norwegian player. Yeah.
Yeah. And
so Harry, go ahead.
Yeah. I think you were gonna pass the baton over to me, so I'll grab it and run with it. Some other famous goalkeepers are some that are outside of the Premier League as well as the Bundesliga. We have La Liga, which is the Spanish top league in Spain. We have Iker Casillas. He is just an insane goalkeeper. It's interesting because I'm not a tall person, and if you're watching us on YouTube, you may not know how tall I am. You may think I'm very tall. I'm definitely not very tall. I'm about 5'8"-ish, between 5'8" and 5'9", and I definitely would have not made a good goalkeeper. But growing up, I actually really adored Iker Casillas. He was the number one Spanish goalkeeper for a long, long time, and probably one of the top goalkeepers in the world in his time. He played for a team called Real Madrid, very famous club in Madrid, based out of Madrid, Spain, and he was known for his reflexes, just incredible reflex saves, incredible just reactions, was very agile. He also wasn't the tallest goalkeeper. It's not like he was 6'7" or 6'8". I think he was about 6'1" or 6'2", so pretty average height in terms of goalkeepers, because goalkeepers are usually the tallest ones on the team. They have to have long arm span. They usually have long legs and to block the balls with either sides of the limbs. But he was just incredible. He had feet skills. He was good on the ball, and just overall a very exciting goalkeeper to watch. And then we have some other goalkeepers. One in particular playing in the Italian league, actually for Parma right now, in the second division, I believe. Or is it the third division or second division, Andrew? Do you know Parma?
I think it's the second division.
Yeah. So the second division in Italy is called Serie B, I believe. There's Serie A, which is the top division in Italy for football, and then Serie B. And Gigi Buffon, he's in his mid-40s, Andrew, and he's played for a long, long time. He's had an illustrious career, and a lot of actually goalkeepers look up to him as someone that actually set the game up and defined what a goalkeeper should be. He's got that power. He demands his team. He's a true captain, and he shouts orders from the back. He's that talisman in a team, and he can really shine and make really those clutch saves when you need him to. And he's still making crazy saves to this day in his 40s. And actually, goalkeepers can play pretty much the only position in the game of football that can play until your 40s. There's some exceptions out there. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, he's a striker. He's playing in his early 40s right now, I believe, for AC Milan, which is another Italian club. But usually goalkeepers, because they don't do as much running, they don't have to sprint back and forth down the field. Their body doesn't have to take as much impact, so they can sit back and make those reflex saves. They can last for a little bit longer, have a little bit of a longer career. Any other goalkeepers you want to talk about, Andrew, in terms of famous goalkeepers?
Yeah, one that comes to mind is Petr Cech. Played for a number of different teams. When I think of him playing for Chelsea, and he's got the full-on headgear, full rugby headgear. As someone that had concussions from soccer, I also played with the headgear, and Petr Cech was someone that I looked up to as someone that was just this bad dude, just really, commanding the field. I didn't play goalkeeper, but it was cool to see someone with such skills as him playing so well. Edwin van der Sar played for Manchester United. Fantastic player. Really wonderful career as well. Part of those golden years with Sir Alex Ferguson and a lot of really wonderful players. He's now involved in the Dutch First League in management, and still continuing his career.
Amazing.
Yeah,
so
let's
Andrew, let's go ahead and transition right into evolution of goalkeepers.
Definitely.
Love to hear more from you about just how has the position of goalkeeper changed today, and what's so different today? How are they involved in the game? What does the modern goalkeeper look like versus what we knew back then? What does a goalkeeper look like today? What makes up a goalkeeper?
Yeah, so the goalkeeper is no longer just someone that stands between the posts, just blocking shots. It is so much more than that. And really, when we think about the modern goalkeeper, we think about a combination of skills. So it's not enough to just be able to block shots. You've got to be actively involved in games. You've got to be commanding your defenders around you, giving out instructions, guiding them, providing feedback. So it's not just shot stopping anymore. You must be a good communicator and play an active role in almost coaching on the pitch. Letting your defenders know what to do, where to line up on free kicks, who to mark, let them know their shortcomings, let them know what they're doing well, and really be a leader in the back part of the pitch. So sometimes goalkeepers are captains, but sometimes they're not. Oftentimes they're not. And captains are also charged of being very vocal in the field. But when you think about some of the most vocal players, you're thinking about the goalkeepers. And when we look at goalkeepers, there's a number of different components, right, to make them really good. And modern training has come such a long way with reflex training and strength training and flexibility, all these things to make sure that goalkeepers are at the top of their game. So we're going to run through some of the components right here. And Harry, definitely jump in if you've got any others. So shot stopping, that's obviously integral. You got to be able to react and to block shots. And you got to be able to do so well. So blocking the shot is not enough. If you're blocking the shot and you're pushing the ball back into the danger area, which we see a lot of goalkeepers do, it's so easy for the opponent to put that ball back in the net. You've got to not only block it, but block it either out of bounds or to your own player or out of the dangerous areas, off to the side of the pitch or far out. You got to be able to handle the ball really well. So if that ball is being shot at you and you're grabbing that ball, you better not let it go. If it's, dribbling out of your hands or between your legs, I'm thinking of Manchester United versus Everton last week and, handling of the ball from our goalkeeper, David De Gea, and the ball going through his legs. We won't go down that path, but
not a good
you got to be able to
situation.
hold on. You got to be able to hold on to the ball and, not just with your hands, but also your feet as well. So if you've got a player passing the ball to you, you got to be able to turn, play that ball first time, pivot. So your foot skills are actually really important as well. Reflexes, I touched a bit about on that. That's going to be really important, making sure that you can make those quick saves. I mean, even, shots are blocked even by fingertips. And if you can get your arm extended to that point, even if you're not the tallest goalkeeper, that'll make or break a game. Aerial command. So if that ball is played up into your box, into the 18-yard box, the 6-yard box, right near your goal, whether it's from a cross or a corner kick or a free kick, you are the only player as the goalkeeper that can use your hands. So you better be jumping up and punching that ball out, grabbing that ball. That's all on you. So you need a goalkeeper that's willing to, put themselves out there, sometimes in dangerous situations, and really leave it all out there and go in hard. Oftentimes when goalkeepers aren't committing, they're not really going for it. That's when you see mistakes happen and goals scored. Another big thing, and we talked about this with the World Cup, and some of the World Cup goalkeepers like Emi Martinez for Argentina, is big game ability and penalty kicks. So I kind of think of this, together. Are you going to be a goalkeeper that comes up with those big iconic saves to win trophies? Are you going to be able to block penalty kicks? Those are the moments that people remember and that will win your team championships. So being able to handle that pressure and even, get inside of other people's heads through whatever tactics that might be, that's the sign of like a really strong and seasoned goalkeeper. Harry, do you want to talk a little bit more about how goalkeepers can get involved in more of a defensive, backline kind of role?
So the modern game nowadays, what's so different about it, and we see this especially after 1912, right? We talked a little bit about the rules, how keepers can only really handle the ball with their hands in the penalty area now, and you can't do that outside of that area. So we see most goalkeepers tend to stay inside of the penalty area, not go too far up, because ultimately, as your role as the goalkeeper, you want to protect the goal and you want to not let that ball, you want to do whatever you can to keep that ball away from your goal, away from that goal line, certainly not over the goal line. But more and more nowadays, we see, because teams are doing something called pressing, and we're going to talk a little bit more about pressing, counter pressing in a different episode. That's a little bit more of an intermediate tactic that a lot of teams use in order to put pressure on the ball and press, pretty much literally use a player and press towards another player to create pressure so that players panic and make mistakes. What goalkeepers allow for are usually, you don't think of them as a usual outfield player on the pitch. So that means usually it's 10v10 with goalkeepers at either ends. But if you have a really skillful goalkeeper that is really skillful, not just with their hands, but with their feet, they can do something called distribute the ball. And when we hear this term distribute in football, usually means goalkeepers with accuracy being able to play the ball with their feet or their hands to a specific person and not just boot it up the field and, cross their fingers, hope for luck that it's going to land on one of their players. Goalkeepers nowadays are held to, I would say, much higher standards in being able to start the ball rolling to an accurate player, whether that's the player next to them, or thread a pass through the field and get a player on the break, and then they ping it to a few more people and score a goal. So distribution, this word called distribution with their feet or with their hands, is really important in teams that want to play with an 11th man and want to play with that goalkeeper almost as an outfield player to provide an outlet to pass to and to provide more options for these passing lanes and more avenues to release the pressure in something called pressing. So we'll talk more about pressure. We'll talk more about pressing in a different episode, but distribution is very important nowadays for the modern game. And then last but not least, there's something called sweeping. And you can think of sweeping with a broom, right? When you're cleaning your house and you're taking a broom, you go to the floor and there's a bunch of dust. As a broom, your job is to sweep. You have to go back and forth down the hallway and you're sweeping the dust away from the hallway, keeping the hallway clean. Same thing for a field. When you are, and usually this is done with a defender, but a goalkeeper, if they're brave enough and if the team plays like this, they can do something called be a sweeper keeper. This is the nickname for a keeper that actually goes away from their goal, plays a little bit higher away from their goal, and when the ball is coming towards them and maybe the opposing team's attacker is rushing towards them, the keeper can come out of their goal, and if they're skilled enough, if they time their run enough, they can intercept the ball before the opposition gets there and pretty much just do this sweep to make sure all the dust is cleared out of their side of the field, that nothing's going to get towards them. So if they can even prevent that attacker from getting into the penalty box, the 18-yard box, from needing to even use their hands in the first place, they're going to shut down any opportunity, any sniff of any goal even happening. So that's even better for the team if the keeper can be a sweeper keeper and stop any chances from happening. Obviously, it's high risk, high reward. So if a goalkeeper comes out, you better be really sure as a keeper that you can stop that ball. Because if you don't stop the ball, you make a tackle, and we talked about tackles. It's not a rugby tackle or an American football tackle. It's a slide tackle. If you get that tackle wrong and you hit the player's ankles instead of the ball itself, you could absolutely be getting a red card because it's a clear and obvious opportunity to score. You might be hitting their body instead of the ball, which automatically is already a yellow card because it's a dangerous play. Those two combined with each other, absolutely a red card, and you could be going off as a goalkeeper. And as a goalkeeper, you never want to get sent off because usually only someone else, unless you sub someone on, another outfield player has to put on the gloves, and not a good situation to be in. So modern keepers these days have to have a combination of really all the skills that Andrew talked about, including some of the skills that I talked about, distribution and sweeper keeping. So really, that's the evolution of keepers today. Andrew, what are your final thoughts about goalkeepers? I mean, we're going through this Positions Explained series. This is our first one that we're dropping. what's a good summary for the listener to know about how important a goalkeeper is and what should they remember past this podcast when they're watching goalkeepers in a game?
Yeah, I think if there's one takeaway, it's that the goalkeeper is both a simple position, but also very nuanced. So when you're watching a game, especially as a first timer, be looking out for all those little things that a goalkeeper is doing, like how well are they in the air if there's a ball coming in? How are they communicating? Are they screaming at their players? Are they, gesticulating with their hands? How is their distribution? Are they able to play the ball up? I love nothing more than to see a goalkeeper get an assist. I think that is amazing. I mean, how's the goalkeeper doing that? Are they doing that? Are they taking risks? Are they being clumsy? Try to have a critical eye for the goalkeeper. And, I think goalkeepers are an unsung hero oftentimes, and they do get a bad rap when things go bad. Sometimes it's not their fault. It's the defender's fault. It's the other part of the team, and they just get, unfortunately, the short end of the stick there. So, yeah, I guess, just look at goalkeeping with a critical eye, I would say.
Yeah. And for myself, I would say, in terms of watching goalkeepers and what you should really take away, one thing you should take away are goalkeeping is a very confidence-based position. And what you should know about goalkeeping is, especially if you're a newer fan, is that goalkeepers oftentimes, you're not going to get a team that plays one goalie one game and one goalie another. So when you watch a team and when you pick a football club to follow, and that's I believe our second episode, so go back and listen to that one. If you have a club that you follow, you'll oftentimes notice over the course of a season, how come the same goalkeeper's coming out over and over again? This goalkeeper is the main goalkeeper. Do they not have anyone else for the league games? Usually it's a confidence-based position. So when the goalkeeper is out there, because if you think about it, if you're one-on-one versus an attacking player, you have to be the most confident person in the world to stand them up, dive one way, guide them away from the net. And I've heard interviews from defenders that if they know their goalkeeper isn't confident, they're not confident anymore. They don't feel good because they feel like at that point, crap, I'm the last line of defense then. If they get past me, they're definitely going to score because our goalkeeper is just going to have a weak hand, So one thing I would encourage you as the viewer to watch is when the goalkeeper, whether or not they're making saves, if they are making saves, look at how they react to their saves. Do they get pumped up? Do they beat their chest, go to the defenders and high five and things like that? You can see that increase in confidence every save they make and every ball they strike away and things like that. They catch a ball, they shout. Like Andrew said, are they vocal? Are they communicative? Or conversely, if they don't make the save and they let the goal in, do they look defeated? Do they look like they're drained of energy? Do they look downtrodden? You can tell by their face, their body language and everything like that. One goalkeeper comes to mind. His name's Wayne Hennessy. The reason I bring him up is because Andrew and I, we support Manchester United, and our team played Nottingham Forest, I believe 2 or 3 or 4 league games, Premier League games ago. And he was the stand-in goalkeeper. He's usually not the main goalkeeper, but the main goalkeeper was ineligible to play that game for reasons we'll talk about in a different podcast. But you could tell after the first goal went in, he didn't save it. He looked just totally beaten. His body language, he looked like he was about to cry. Maybe I won't go that far, but he definitely looked defeated. And goalkeeping is a very confidence-based position. And imagine, you are the person that's relied upon every single game. You're the main man. You're the main woman. You're the main person. That's why they don't get switched out. So again, as the listener, if there's anything to know about goalkeepers, it's a very confidence-based position. And you can see, just look out for the confidence on the goalkeeper's face when you watch a game next. So that was today's episode on Positions Explained. What is a goalkeeper? We're going to keep on going with this series. So actually next episode, next week, we'll be coming out with Positions Explained. What are defenders, or what is defenders? So you'll be able to listen to a little bit more about that. Andrew and I will talk about all the nuances of what a defender is and break down a few things. We're not going to go super detailed. That's going to be for another podcast. But that was today's episode of the Super Subs with
Andrew.
And Harry. Definitely don't miss our next episode. We describe it, and definitely subscribe if you like our podcast. Rate us on this platform you're listening to, whether it's YouTube or Spotify, Apple Podcast, etc. And follow us on the socials. Reach out. We love to hear your feedback as well. If this is useful for you, Andrew and I would love to talk with you and hear what's useful, what's not. If it's total garbage, or if you don't like it, we'd love to hear from you as well, and we'll improve on some things, and I'm sure we'll make it a little bit better for you. But don't miss out. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. We have a website as well, and you can find us on all the streaming platforms, on podcast platforms, as well as YouTube. But we are going to be subbing out for now. Catch you all on the next one.